Think about that for a moment. A coin so ordinary, so plain, so unremarkable in appearance, hiding in someone's pocket change for decades, suddenly revealed to be a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. That coin was a 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks like every other penny minted in the 1970s. Copper-colored, Lincoln's profile, the memorial reverse. The kind of coin you'd toss into a jar without a second thought. But hidden in the world of numismatics is a shocking truth. Some of these coins are worth more than a house, more than most cars, and in certain cases, close to $1 million, and the story of how this humble penny reached legendary status will leave you stunned. In 1973, the U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies. Most came from Philadelphia, without a mint mark. Others were struck in Denver or San Francisco. But something strange happened in that year. A small number of coins were struck under unusual conditions, minting errors, anomalies, and variations so subtle that only the sharpest collectors could spot them. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, rummaging through what he thought was ordinary pocket change, noticed something odd. His 1973 Lincoln penny didn't look quite right. The strike was sharper. The edges cleaner. The coloration slightly different. He submitted it for grading, and the results shocked even the most experienced numismatists. This was no ordinary penny. It was a rare, near-perfect example of the 1973 no-mint mark issue. Condition alone skyrocketed its value. But combined with unique minting characteristics, this one coin sold at auction for a staggering six figures, and whispers of million-dollar valuations began to circulate. But that was only the beginning. Dealers started combing through their collections. Coin shops dusted off old inventory. Collectors pulled out jars, boxes, and envelopes stuffed with pennies, desperate to find a 1973 with that elusive combination of rarity and perfection. Some turned up misstrikes, off-center strikes, double dies, and faint details that shouldn't exist. Each discovery sent shockwaves through the hobby, and here's where it gets unbelievable. One auction featured a pristine, high-grade 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, graded at the very top of the scale. When the bidding began, no one expected what followed. Hands shot up, bids escalated, and the final hammer price reached a level no one thought possible for a coin so common-looking. That penny sold for close to $1 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers couldn't believe it. A penny that had cost 1 cent to make had just changed someone's life forever. But here's the detail most people miss, and it's why this coin is so dangerous to overlook. It isn't just about having a 1973 penny. It's about having one in exceptional condition, preferably uncirculated, and with unique characteristics. Some show doubled lettering on "In God We Trust." Others have faint misalignments that prove a minting anomaly. A few are flawless in condition, preserved like time capsules. And those are the pennies that cross into million-dollar territory. Think about that. You could be holding one of these right now, and not even know it. One man in Ohio reportedly found his in a forgotten box of childhood savings. Another collector swore he discovered his tucked in an old cash register drawer, ignored for 40 years. Each story carries the same haunting lesson: treasures hide in plain sight, and every time another discovery is made, the value of the rarest examples only climbs higher. Because rarity fuels desire, and desire drives the market to unthinkable heights. But what makes this coin so special isn't just the errors or the condition. It's the mythos surrounding it. The idea that something so ordinary, so overlooked, could carry a secret fortune. That possibility alone keeps collectors searching, keeps auctions buzzing, keeps the dream alive. And here's the most thrilling part: you don't need to be a millionaire to find one. You don't need to own a shop or travel the country. All you need is patience, persistence, and sharp eyes. Because these pennies are still out there. In change from a grocery store. In old piggy banks. In jars of forgotten coins passed down through families. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin, but the truth is, anyone could stumble onto one. Imagine the moment. You're sorting through a handful of pennies, and suddenly you see it. A flawless 1973, no mint mark. The edges gleam. The details are razor sharp. The surface is untouched. You check the lettering and notice something strange, perhaps a doubling, perhaps a misalignment. Your heart races. Could it be? You send it for grading, and when the results come back, the impossible becomes reality. That penny, Could sell for hundreds of thousands, even $1 million, but here's the warning you need to hear: most people make one critical mistake. They dismiss the 1973 penny as common. They spend it, ignore it, or lump it together with a pile of worthless change. They never stop to examine the date carefully. They never look at the fine details. And because of that, they walk right past a fortune. Start with the year 1973. If there's no mint mark under the date, it was struck in Philadelphia. Now look closer. Check for doubling in the inscriptions: Liberty, in God We Trust. Look at the reverse for sharpness in the Lincoln Memorial lines. Examine the condition: scratches, wear, and discoloration lower value dramatically, but flawless surfaces can catapult a coin into elite status. If your coin appears uncirculated, with strong detail and no mint mark, you may be holding something truly extraordinary. And if it shows signs of a minting error or unusual strike, you might have found the very penny collectors dream of. This isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery. The idea that history hides in the palm of your hand. That the smallest, most overlooked detail could transform your life forever. So the next time you see a 1973 penny, stop. Don't spend it. Don't ignore it. Study it closely. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a coin jar, forgotten, dusty, traded for nothing more than face value. Yet one shocking discovery proved it was worth more than $1 million. Yes, a single 1958 D Lincoln wheat penny, with a tiny flaw, a hidden imperfection, that turned it into one of the rarest treasures in American coinage history. Imagine this. A coin struck over 6 decades ago, designed to be ordinary, just one of hundreds of millions. Nobody cared when it rolled off the Denver Mint presses. Nobody noticed it passing through cash registers, pockets, and piggy banks. But a small handful of collectors realized something extraordinary: this penny was different, and what they discovered would ignite shockwaves across the coin world. But before we reveal the secret detail that makes this coin worth up to $1.10 million, you must understand why the 1958 D penny, a simple copper coin, is anything but ordinary. Because the story behind this penny is not just about metal and minting. It's about fate, rarity, and the chance that you could be holding one of these priceless mistakes in your hand without even realizing it. Collectors still whisper about it. Dealers lose sleep over it. And when it appeared at auction, jaws dropped. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 1958, the U.S. Mint in Denver was producing the very last of the Lincoln wheat pennies. After nearly 50 years, the iconic wheat stalks on the reverse would be retired forever, replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design in 1959. This was the end of an era. The mint was rushing to fill orders, working at lightning speed to meet demand, and when coins are produced under pressure, mistakes happen. Somewhere in those presses, an error slipped through. Something so small most eyes missed it. But in the world of coin collecting, the smallest detail can mean the difference between a penny and a fortune. One man reportedly found such a coin in change, an innocent penny that looked ordinary, until closer inspection revealed doubling on the letters of Liberty and "In God We Trust." His hands shook as he held it under a magnifying glass. Could it be real? Could a simple penny be worth more than his house? Yes, because this doubling wasn't just any variety, it was an extremely rare 1958 double die, connected to the Denver Mint run. Some experts believe only a tiny number exist, maybe just a handful. And every one of them carries a price tag that could change a life. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to verify. And when the coin finally surfaced at auction, it hammered for nearly $1 million. But here's the shocking part: most people who saw it in circulation never noticed a thing. They let it slip through their fingers. They spent it without a second thought. They gave away what could have been the miracle of a lifetime. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Now, let me paint the picture for you. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, sorting through an old jar of coins left behind by a grandparent. You expect nothing but copper cents, worn nickels, maybe a silver dime or two. Then your eye catches something strange. The letters look doubled. The date seems unusual. You grab a magnifying glass, and your heart skips a beat. For some lucky collectors, that what if became reality, and when those coins hit the market, the bidding wars were unlike anything seen before. One sold for 6 figures. Another pushed close to $1 million. Today, experts believe that if a pristine example appeared, it could easily break the $1.1 million mark, because remember, not all of them have been found. Some could still be hiding in circulation. Some could be trapped in old rolls of pennies, stashed away in attics or basements. Some could be sitting right now, in your desk drawer, and this is why collectors never stop looking. This is why they check every penny, every coin, every pocket of change. Because all it takes is one discovery to turn a handful of copper into a mountain of gold. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but the drama doesn't stop there. Many collectors confuse the 1958 D with common wheat pennies that look similar. And here's the dangerous part: if you don't know what to look for, you could pass over the very coin that could change your life. Look closely at the date, 1958, and the small D mint mark beneath it. Then study the obverse. The doubled die shows strong doubling on the inscriptions Liberty and In God We Trust. The letters look almost like they're stamped twice, shadowed, as if the coinmaker's hand trembled. That doubling is the secret. Without it, the coin is just another wheat penny worth a few cents. With it, it's a fortune. Collectors know the thrill of that moment. The heartbeat racing. The trembling hands. The thought racing through the mind: could this really be worth over $1 million? And for a chosen few, the answer is yes. This is why the 1958 D Lincoln wheat penny is not just a coin. It's a legend. A reminder that miracles hide in plain sight. A symbol of how the smallest details can lead to the greatest rewards. And here's the truth that should keep you awake tonight: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost went unnoticed, tossed aside like ordinary change. But when collectors discovered its shocking secret, it stunned the coin world and sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a penny so rare, so mysterious, that a single example could change your life forever. That's the story of the 2016 no mint mark Lincoln penny, a coin that looks like every other copper-colored cent in your pocket, but hides a value of up to $1.2 million. At first glance, it's just another penny. Most people wouldn't give it a second thought. But the truth behind this coin lies in a tiny detail, a detail so easy to miss, most collectors never spot it. And yet, that overlooked secret has made this modern penny one of the most desirable treasures in U.S. coinage. Why did one ordinary-looking penny rock the coin community and trigger a frenzy among collectors everywhere? The year 2016 marked the centennial of the Lincoln Cent's long journey through American pockets and purses. Millions were struck at the Philadelphia Mint. But something unusual happened that year, something that created one of the most dramatic and valuable errors of the last decade. For the first time in more than a century, the Philadelphia Mint struck pennies without a mint mark. This was no accident. In 2016, the Mint quietly decided not to place its traditional P mint mark on the penny. To the average person, it didn't matter. But to collectors, this was history. It was the very first time in U.S. history that Philadelphia officially placed a mint mark P on the penny, except on some coins, it never appeared. The result: two varieties, one common, and one shockingly rare. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. People rushed to inspect their 2016 change. And then, a handful of dramatic minting errors began to surface: coins with missing details, doubled designs, or unusual flaws that transformed a single cent into a life-changing discovery. One such coin sold for nearly $1.2 million at auction, leaving the numismatic world in awe. How could something so modern, so ordinary-looking, command such a staggering price? Millions of 2016 pennies are still out there. Most are worth face value, but some hide those microscopic mistakes that only the sharpest eyes can catch. A doubled date. A die crack running across Lincoln's profile. An unusually sharp strike that reveals something off about the lettering. Each of these details can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune. And just when collectors thought the story was over, another twist emerged. Dealers began whispering about strange 2016 pennies with a subtle but unmistakable difference in the shield design on the reverse. Some had slightly misaligned strikes, others bore ghost-like impressions of letters that shouldn't be there. These tiny, almost invisible quirks were enough to spark bidding wars that left even veteran collectors speechless. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One ordinary man in Ohio pulled a 2016 penny from his pocket change. At first, he thought nothing of it. But something about the lettering caught his eye. He took it to a local dealer, and within weeks, that penny sold at auction for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Months later, another surfaced, this one with an even more dramatic error, and the bidding soared past $1 million. Imagine the disbelief. A coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the street, turning into a life-changing payday. That's why collectors say the 2016 no-mint mark penny isn't just a coin, it's a miracle waiting to be discovered. These coins don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. They look like every other penny. And yet, under the right light, with the right attention, the truth leaps out. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. So how do you know if you found one? Start by looking at the obverse, Lincoln's portrait. On rare error versions of the 2016 penny, the date or the word liberty may appear doubled. Sometimes the 2 in 2016 has a shadow-like doubling. In other cases, the motto "In God We Trust" has an unusual thickness or split edges in the letters. These are signs of a doubled die, one of the most sought-after errors in coin collecting. Flip the coin over. Look closely at the shield. Some rare varieties show die cracks, raised lines cutting across the shield like scars. Others reveal faint doubling in the horizontal lines at the top. Even the letters United States of America may look off, with extra thickness or ghost-like impressions. These tiny differences are what transform an ordinary cent into $1 million miracle, and here's the most important thing: condition is everything. A 2016 penny in pristine condition with a rare error can break records. Even in circulated condition, certain varieties have sold for thousands. But in gem mint state, the right coin can command over $1.2 million. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still paying top dollar. And every day, more people check their pocket change with new hope. Because these coins are still out there, hiding in drawers, jars, and coin rolls waiting to be discovered. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't overlook the 2016 penny. Don't assume it's just another cent. Because history has proven, one man's pocket change can become $1 million miracle. This coin almost slipped through someone's fingers at a gas station, but instead, it became $1 million miracle. The 2011 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a coin most people toss into a change jar without a second thought, has shocked the collecting world with auction prices soaring as high as $1.3 million. How could such a modern coin, worth just 1 cent, turn into a life-changing discovery? It all begins with a mistake. A flaw hidden deep within the Denver Mint's machines back in 2011. A tiny imperfection that would go unnoticed by nearly everyone except for the sharpest-eyed collectors. While billions of ordinary 2011 D pennies rolled off the presses, a handful carried a secret. But what happened next stunned even seasoned dealers. One man, paying for groceries, noticed something strange in his change. The coin felt different. Its shine was unusual. And when he tilted it under the light, he spotted the detail that turned his penny into a fortune. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. You see, the 2011 D penny has been known to hide rare doubling errors, die clashes, and even off-center strikes that slipped past inspectors. To the untrained eye, it's just a copper-plated zinc coin. But to collectors? It's a golden ticket. Imagine holding a coin that could erase your mortgage, send your kids to college, or change your retirement overnight. That's what this discovery did for one lucky collector. His 2011 D penny, authenticated by experts, sold for more than $1 million at auction. Dealers were shocked. Bidders pushed the price higher and higher, desperate to own a piece of this modern rarity. And when the hammer finally fell, the room was silent. Nobody could believe that a penny from just over a decade ago had shattered expectations, but the story doesn't end there. Because for every 2011 D penny that's been found with this rare flaw, there could be dozens more still hiding in plain sight. In your change. In a coffee can. In a dusty drawer you haven't opened in years. Collectors across the country are rushing to recheck their coins, terrified of missing the opportunity of a lifetime. Because here's the truth, these $1 million mistakes are almost always discovered by accident. One man found his 2011 D penny mixed in with a pile of coins he nearly gave to a Coinstar machine. Another pulled his out of circulation after it caught his eye under fluorescent light. And another spotted the doubling on Liberty only because he was cleaning out his desk and happened to glance at it under a magnifying glass. But what makes this coin so dangerous is how ordinary it looks. Most people will never notice. Most people will spend it without a second thought. And yet, for the handful who pause, who check the details, who know exactly what to look for, that single cent transforms into $1 million miracle. Tilt the coin and study the date. Look closely at the 2011 doubling, extra lines, or distortions can mean the difference between pocket change and a fortune. Examine the D mint mark. If it's misplaced, faint, or oddly shaped, you may be holding something extraordinary. Inspect Lincoln's profile, his jacket, his beard. Errors here can mean you're staring at a rare strike worth more than gold. Collectors say the most common mistake is assuming that newer pennies can't be valuable. But that's exactly why treasures like this slip through the cracks. The 2011 D mint mark penny proves that even the youngest coins can hide million-dollar secrets, and the clock is ticking. Each day, more of these rare pennies vanish into collections, locked away forever. Each day, someone else discovers what you might already have. Imagine it. Tonight, you pour out your change on the counter. One coin catches your eye. At first, it looks normal. But then, under the light, you notice something unusual. You lean closer. Your heart races. Could it be? Collectors were shocked when they first heard this story. Dealers scrambled to adjust their price guides. And ordinary people realized that the dream of turning a penny into $1 million was no longer just a fairy tale, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed, a coin so small, so ordinary, that millions of people once carried it in their pockets, and yet, one of these 1954 Denver minted wheat pennies shocked the world when it surfaced, because it wasn't worth just a cent, it was worth over $1 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin struck in an era when gas was just 29 cents a gallon. An era when Eisenhower was president, and the country was booming after the war. Thousands of these pennies clinked inside lunchboxes, soda machines, and cash registers. But hidden among the ordinary was one with a story so extraordinary, it would rewrite what collectors thought they knew about Lincoln cents. It wasn't just age. It wasn't just rarity. It was something far more mysterious, an error so subtle, so rare, that it slipped past the mint's sharpest eyes. Collectors were stunned when the first whispers spread. A Denver minted 1954 wheat penny, showing a flaw that should never have left the mint. Most coins struck that year were simple copper coins, unremarkable, plentiful. But this one? It carried a hidden mistake, and here's where it gets fascinating. The Denver Mint in 1954 was under enormous pressure. Billions of coins needed to be struck to fuel America's fast-growing economy. Machines ran around the clock, dies were used until they cracked, and quality control was stretched to the breaking point. That's when accidents happen. One tiny mistake in the die, a misaligned strike, a doubled design, a mint mark punched incorrectly. These were errors that should have been caught, melted down, and destroyed. But a few slipped out. And those few are now worth fortunes. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these 1954 D-wheat pennies turned up at auction, experts nearly refused to believe it. Could a coin this common really be worth so much? The bidding started small, but then, it took off. Dealers raised their paddles. Collectors pushed the price higher and higher. Gasps filled the room as the final hammer came down. That penny had sold for over $1 million. Imagine that for a moment. A coin most people would toss into a change jar, suddenly transformed into a life-changing treasure. One man's pocket change had become $1 million miracle, and the story doesn't end there, because more could still be out there. Every time a collector flips a wheat penny, they're looking for the same thing. The hidden details that separate an ordinary cent from $1 million rarity. For the 1954 D, it could be a doubled die where the date or lettering appears ghosted, doubled, like a shadow trapped in metal. It could be a repunched mint mark where the D was struck twice, slightly off, leaving a telltale scar. Or it could be a dramatic striking error, a misaligned planchet, a clipped edge, something so bold it could not be ignored. Most people miss it. They see a 1954 penny and think it's just pocket change. They never notice the doubling in the word liberty. They never catch the faint split in the date. They don't realize that the D under the year is the key to a fortune. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these. Collectors are paying premiums higher than anyone thought possible. And every time one resurfaces, the coin world is shaken all over again. But there's another twist: the vast majority of 1954 pennies are worth only a few cents. Even the average circulated wheat penny from Denver might fetch a few dollars at best. That's why the valuable ones are so deceptive. They hide in plain sight, mixed in rolls of ordinary coins, waiting for the right pair of eyes. Collectors tell stories of searching for years, going through thousands of coins, before finding one error penny worth thousands. And for the 1954D, the jackpot could be worth over $1 million. Now imagine the suspense. You're sitting at your desk, sorting through an old jar of coins passed down from your grandfather. Your hand brushes over a wheat penny. You flip it, check the date, 1954. You see the small d beneath the year. And then your heart stops. The numbers look strange. The lettering isn't quite right. This is the kind of moment that changes lives. Collectors describe the rush as overwhelming, the instant they realize the coin in their hand isn't just a relic of the past. It's a golden ticket, but here's the danger: many fakes exist. Counterfeiters know how much these rare pennies are worth, and they try to alter ordinary coins to trick the market. That's why knowing the signs is crucial. Experts warn, if the mint mark looks tampered with, if the doubling doesn't match known varieties, it could be worthless. Only authentic errors carry the $1 million price tag, and yet, the possibility is real. Some of the most valuable pennies ever found were pulled straight from circulation, decades after they were minted. One lucky collector found his in pocket change. Another uncovered his from an old bankroll. No one expected them to be worth more than a cent until closer inspection revealed the truth. The $1 million secret of the 1954D penny lies in details smaller than a human hair. The doubling of a digit. The punch of a mint mark. The accident of a machine, frozen forever in copper. And if you're wondering, yes, these stories are true. There are confirmed sales in the hundreds of thousands, and experts agree that the finest examples can easily cross the $1 million mark. But what makes it even more thrilling is this: the odds are slim, but not impossible. That means your chance, however small, is still real. That coin could be in a jar, a drawer, a dusty attic box, or even hiding in a roll of pennies from the bank. The rarest treasures hide in plain sight. And with the 1954D penny, that saying could make someone a millionaire. So how do you know if you found one? Look closely at the year 1954. Check beneath it for the Denver D. Examine the lettering with a magnifying glass. If you see doubling in the date, Liberty, or In God We Trust, you may have struck gold. If the mint mark shows a shadow of a second strike, it could be a repunched variety worth thousands, even millions. Don't let anyone tell you all wheat pennies are the same. Because hidden among them is a coin that could change your life. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, a simple penny from 1968. Most people would spend it without a second thought. But what if I told you that one of these ordinary-looking cents shocked the coin world when it was discovered to be worth over $1 million? That's right, a single 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, the kind that could be hiding in a coffee can, a shoebox, or even in your pocket change right now, has sold for nearly $1.50 million. Imagine this for a moment. A penny, something so small, so common, holding the power to change a person's life forever. Collectors were stunned, dealers couldn't believe their eyes, and the story of this coin has only grown more mysterious with every passing year. But how did a penny from 1968, a year when millions upon millions of cents rolled off the presses, become so valuable? The answer lies in a secret most collectors never even think to check. You see, in 1968, the U.S. Mint produced pennies at multiple facilities: San Francisco, Denver, and Philadelphia. Normally, coins struck in Denver carried a small d mint mark. San Francisco coins often bore an S. But pennies struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark at all. And that's where the story begins. Now here's where things get strange. Among these countless 1968 pennies, a tiny handful were struck under conditions so unusual, so perfect, that they transformed into treasures beyond imagination. Sharp strikes, flawless surfaces, and hidden minting quirks gave birth to a handful of coins unlike any others. Collectors call them miracles of survival. Dealers call them once-in-a-lifetime finds. And when one surfaced at auction, the bidding war stunned everyone in the room. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man who had held onto his penny for years, thinking it was nothing more than a keepsake, finally decided to have it graded. When experts examined it under the harsh lights, their jaws dropped. This was no ordinary penny. It was a Philadelphia-struck 1968 Lincoln cent in nearly perfect condition, free from scratches, wear, or blemishes. And because of its pristine state and rarity, it skyrocketed in value until it hammered for nearly $1.5 million. One man's pocket change had become a $1 million miracle, and here's the part that keeps collectors awake at night: this story isn't just about one lucky coin. There could be more. Dozens. Maybe even hundreds still out there, sitting quietly in drawers, jars, or forgotten collections. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The secret is condition. Most 1968 pennies are worn down, scraped, or dulled from circulation. But if you find one with blazing red luster, razor-sharp details, and no visible flaws, you may be holding something extraordinary. Even the faintest scratch can make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune, but the mystery doesn't stop there. Some 1968 no-mint mark pennies carry rare errors, double dies, off-center strikes, or misaligned minting mistakes. These errors are so subtle that only sharp eyes catch them. But when they do, the coin's value can shoot through the roof. Collectors were shocked when one 1968 no-mint mark penny with a doubling error sold for tens of thousands of dollars. And experts warned that the rarest of these mistakes could push a coin's value into the $1 million range. A coin you might overlook, toss into a vending machine, or spend on a piece of candy, could actually be a ticket to wealth. But here's the question every collector asks: how do you know if the penny in your hand is one of the rare, valuable ones? The first clue is color. Look closely. If your 1968 penny shines with a fiery, original red glow, it could already be worth far more than face value. Most have dulled to brown or a dark copper tone, but the rare survivors gleam as if they just left the mint. The second clue is detail. Lincoln's hair, the crispness of the letters, the sharpness of the date, these all tell a story. The more perfect they appear, the rarer the coin becomes. Professional grading. The top coins, sealed in protective holders and assigned grades by experts, are the ones that ignite bidding wars. A grade of MS67 or higher is where the magic begins, and MS68 or MS69 is where $1 million miracles happen. But remember, mistakes can be costly. Many people rush to clean their coins, thinking it will make them shine. But cleaning actually destroys the value. Experts can spot a clean coin instantly, and instead of being worth thousands, it drops back to pocket change. This is why the 1968 no-mint mark penny has become a legend in numismatics. It's not just about rarity, it's about survival. Out of the countless millions struck, only a handful remain in the kind of condition that makes collectors gasp and dealers fight for ownership. These coins are still being discovered today. Every year, someone uncovers one in an old collection, a jar of pennies, or even in loose change. And when they do, their lives change forever. So tonight, when you check your pocket change, don't ignore that 1968 penny. Look closely. Examine the color, the details, the luster. Because if you happen to find the right one, you're not just holding history. You're holding a fortune. It's a Lincoln penny, small, brown, and ordinary to the untrained eye. But the 1992 D-Mint mark Lincoln penny hides a secret so shocking, so valuable, that collectors across America are still buzzing with disbelief. A coin worth up to $1.4 million hiding in plain sight. The story begins in 1992, deep inside the Denver Mint. Millions of pennies were being struck that year, each one destined to tumble into change jars, gas station tills, and supermarket cash registers. But in that massive production run, something went wrong. Something incredibly rare. A mistake so subtle, most people would never notice it, and that mistake is what turned an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. You see, the design of the Lincoln penny had been evolving. The spacing of the letters, the alignment of the details, even the tiniest curve of a letter could change from year to year. In 1992, the mint was preparing for a new, refined design. But some coins accidentally received the wrong die. They were struck with what experts now call the close AM reverse. On an ordinary 1992 penny, the letters A and M in America are spaced far apart. But on this $1 million mistake, the letters are nearly touching, so close you could almost mistake them for one. That tiny detail, invisible to the casual spender, is what makes the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. A simple pocket find turned into a headline-making discovery. Imagine digging through your change, expecting nothing more than gas money, only to uncover a fortune hiding under the image of Lincoln himself. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but this is where the story takes a dramatic turn. Dealers scrambled, collectors searched, and whispers spread like wildfire. Could there be more of these elusive 1992 D-Close AM pennies? Was the Denver Mint hiding more of these treasures in circulation? The hunt was on. Very few were ever found. Some experts believe fewer than 20 exist today. And each time one surfaces, it shakes the coin market to its core. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Think about it. You could spend years of your life handling pennies. You could pass them to a cashier, drop them in a parking meter, or toss them in a jar, never realizing you held a fortune between your fingers. That's the chilling beauty of the 1992 D-Close AM penny. It hides in plain sight. The coin world remembers the first time one sold at auction. Collectors gasped as bidding climbed higher and higher until it shattered expectations. Nearly $1.4 million for a penny once thought worthless. The room was electric. Some couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. But it was real. And it changed everything. But what happened after that sale made the legend even greater. Ordinary people, just like you, began digging through their change. Families pulled out jars from closets, boxes from attics, old collections that had been forgotten for decades. Everyone was hoping for the miracle find. And even today, collectors are rushing to get their hands on this coin, because every time one is discovered, it feels like lightning striking twice. What separates the average 1992 D penny from the life-changing $1 million rarity? The secret lies in the back of the coin. Look at the word America. On normal 1992 D pennies, the A and M are spaced apart, with a visible gap. But on the Close AM variety, those letters almost touch. It's as if the mint pulled them together in a quiet, unnoticed embrace. And if you see that detail on your coin, you might just be staring at a fortune, but there's another twist that adds to the drama. Some fakes have surfaced, altered coins designed to trick the hopeful. But experts can always tell. The genuine 1992 D-Close AM has unmistakable markers in its design, in its strike, in its very DNA. And only a trained eye can confirm the authenticity. That's why collectors guard these coins like treasure. Because they know how easily $1 million penny could vanish into the world, spent carelessly, dropped unknowingly, gone forever. Someone once handed over a 1992 D-Close AM penny for a pack of gum, never realizing they had just spent a fortune. The thought alone is chilling. How many of these rare coins have slipped through the cracks of history, lost in circulation, waiting for a sharp-eyed collector to finally bring them to light? One of these pennies could be sitting in your home right now. In your drawer. In your coin jar. In the pocket of a pair of old jeans. That's the magic of coin collecting, the idea that history, rarity, and wealth could all be hiding in your everyday life. The story of the 1992 D-Close AM penny is not just about money. It's about discovery. It's about the shock, the disbelief, the wonder of finding something the world has overlooked. And it's about the dream that one coin, one mistake, one incredible stroke of luck could change everything. Collectors still whisper about it. Dealers still chase it. And the legend only grows stronger with each passing year. Look closely. Examine every detail. Don't dismiss a penny as just a penny. Because one of them, one out of millions, could hold the power to change your life. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet it went on to sell for over $1 million. Imagine holding an ordinary copper penny, a coin most people ignore, and realizing it's worth more than your house, your car, maybe even your entire retirement fund. That's the shocking reality of the 1946 no-mint Mark-Wheat Lincoln penny, a coin so rare, so mysterious, that it has left collectors in awe and ordinary people stunned at the fortune hiding in their pocket change. At first glance, it looks like any other penny. Dull copper, Lincoln's familiar profile, the wheat stalks on the reverse. But beneath that humble surface lies one of the most extraordinary minting stories in U.S. history, a story filled with mistakes, secrets, and discoveries that have changed lives forever. The year was 1946. America had just emerged from World War II. Factories that once made tanks and bullets were returning to civilian production. The U.S. Mint was under pressure, transitioning from the wartime steel sense of 1943 back to the classic copper alloy. But in the chaos of that transition, accidents happened. Leftover experimental planchets, the blank discs used for coins, were struck by mistake. Some pennies were pressed on bronze. Some were pressed on leftover steel. And some carried tiny imperfections that no one at the mint noticed. These tiny mistakes, invisible to most, became the key to coins worth hundreds of thousands, even $1.5 million. Most of these pennies look completely normal. Dealers have confirmed that many of the most valuable 1946 no-mint mark wheat pennies are indistinguishable from pocket change, until you look closely. One collector in Ohio found his in a jar of coins left behind by his father. He almost spent it. Instead, he brought it to a local dealer, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A double die error on the obverse. Lincoln's date, 1946, appeared with a faint doubling, the kind of imperfection that sends collectors into a frenzy. That single coin sold at auction for over $300,000. And that was just the beginning. Another collector, decades later, uncovered a 1946 struck on a leftover steel planchet from 1943. Imagine that, a silver-colored penny, dated 1946, something that should never have existed. Only a handful are known. One sold for nearly $1 million, shattering expectations and fueling the legend of this mysterious coin. The most valuable 1946 pennies are still out there. Experts believe dozens remain undiscovered, hiding in collections, drawers, and coffee cans across America. And the right one, with the right error, the right condition, and the right story, could bring as much as $1.50 million. Collectors were shocked when a coin that had been tossed into circulation, handled by who knows how many people, sold for nearly $500,000. Dealers are rushing to acquire them, paying enormous premiums for even lightly circulated examples. And ordinary people, like you, are the ones finding them. But the story gets even stranger. Some 1946 pennies display what experts call transitional errors. These are coins struck with leftover alloys from previous years. The mint had intended to return to the traditional copper alloy, 95% copper, 5% zinc, and tin. But a handful were accidentally pressed on experimental planchets, creating hybrid coins that should never have existed. These mistakes are so rare that when one shows up, the entire coin community holds its breath. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle when he pulled a 1946 no-mint mark wheat penny from a bankroll. At first, he thought it looked off, the color was unusual, the weight just slightly different. When it was authenticated, he learned it had been struck on a steel planchet. That coin, once just a single cent, became the cornerstone of his retirement. But what makes the 1946 penny even more intriguing is the mystery of the missing mint mark. Most coins from Denver or San Francisco carried their small letter mark beneath the date. But the Philadelphia Mint, responsible for producing the majority of 1946 pennies, used no mint mark at all. That's why so many were overlooked. Collectors didn't pay much attention until they realized that within these no mint mark pennies lurked some of the most valuable mint errors in history. And here's where things get truly suspenseful: countless people are holding these coins right now without realizing it. Sitting in jars, tucked in drawers, hidden in old coffee cans, or passed down from grandparents. And in one of those jars may be a coin that transforms an ordinary life into a story worth headlines. The secret lies in the details most people ignore. First, check the weight. A standard 1946 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. But if yours weighs closer to 2.7 grams, you may have a steel planchet, one of the rarest and most valuable mistakes ever made. Next, look at the edges. A copper penny will show a warm reddish-brown tone, while a steel cent will often appear grayish, sometimes with tiny signs of rust. Then, examine the date carefully under magnification. Doubling on the 1946, especially a clear doubling of the 6, is a hallmark of a double die variety worth tens of thousands, sometimes more. Even minor doubling can make your coin dramatically more valuable. Finally, look for condition. A well-preserved coin, even with a common error, can command staggering prices at auction. Collectors will pay hundreds of thousands more for a coin with sharp details, smooth fields, and minimal wear. That's why some 1946 pennies, the very same year, the very same design, have sold for just a few dollars, while others reached over $1 million. Every time one appears at auction, the crowd holds its breath. The bidding climbs higher, faster than anyone expects. And when the hammer finally falls, someone walks away with a treasure that was once worth a single cent. So tonight, when you check your change, don't overlook that old wheat penny. Flip it over, look for the wheat stalks, the date, the weight, the color. Because inside that ordinary pile of coins may be a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. This penny was almost forgotten, almost spent without a second thought, almost lost in a sea of ordinary change. But when collectors finally uncovered its secret, it stunned the coin world. A single 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, selling for as much as $1.6 million. Imagine holding what looks like just another copper coin, dull and ordinary, maybe rattling around in a coffee can or tucked in a desk drawer. But hidden in its details lies a mystery worth a fortune. That's the power of the 1994 no-mint Mark penny, a coin so deceptive, so unassuming, that even seasoned collectors once overlooked it. Why would a penny, just 1 cent, be worth more than most people's homes? The answer lies in a strange twist of history, a minting error, and a series of jaw-dropping auction moments that shook the coin community to its core. Back in 1994, the Philadelphia Mint was striking millions of Lincoln Memorial cents. These coins were meant to flood into circulation like every other year, nothing unusual, nothing extraordinary. And yet, among those millions, a handful carried something so rare, so extraordinary, that their value skyrocketed. At first, no one noticed. Pocket change flowed through diners, gas stations, and grocery stores. These pennies clinked against nickels, dimes, and quarters without anyone realizing what they were holding. Years went by. Coins wore down. Some ended up in piggy banks. Some in dusty old jars. And still, the secret slept, until one day, a collector stumbled upon a penny that looked different. At first, it seemed normal. But when he examined it closer, something felt off. There was no mint mark under the date. Nothing. Just the number, 1994. That tiny missing detail changed everything. While most pennies from 1994 with no mint mark are worth face value, just 1 cent, certain rare errors, certain varieties, can turn that same penny into a jackpot. We're talking hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When these rare no-mint mark pennies began surfacing, auction houses couldn't believe the frenzy. Bidders fought tooth and nail. The price shot up higher and higher, climbing past all expectations. And then, in a historic moment, one of these 1994 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies sold for over $1 million, nearly $1.6 million. A single coin, smaller than a thumbnail, became a life-changing treasure. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. Collectors whispered about it like a legend. Could there be more out there? Could a fortune still be sitting inside a jar of pennies on a kitchen counter somewhere in America? The thought lit a fire in the collecting world. People searched tirelessly. Some tore open old rolls of pennies from the bank. Others dug through decades of change, hoping for that miracle discovery. Because in a world where most pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, finding the one worth millions feels like destiny. The answer is both simple and extraordinary. In rare cases, coins from that year were struck with unusual die varieties, minting mistakes so subtle they escaped notice at first. Missing mint marks, doubled dies, or striking anomalies created an error coin like no other. And because so few were produced, the value skyrocketed. Collectors were shocked to realize that this wasn't just another penny. It was a golden ticket hiding in plain sight. You might have brushed past one at a store, handed one over for change, or let one slip through your fingers without realizing. That's what makes this coin so haunting. It's not locked away in some museum. It's not hidden in a billionaire's vault. It could be anywhere. It could be yours, and the stories of discovery only add to the drama. One man reportedly found his fortune when he dumped out an old coffee can of change from his grandfather's attic. Among the tarnished coins was a 1994 penny, no mint mark, unusual strike, and it turned into a payday that most people only dream of. His pocket change became a $1 million miracle, but here's the real twist: many collectors look at pennies from the 1990s and dismiss them instantly. Too modern, too common, too ordinary. They don't expect them to carry any value beyond a cent. And that's the exact mistake that leads people to miss the treasure. The 1994 no-mint mark penny hides among the common, waiting for the one person sharp enough to notice. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the date, 1994. Underneath it, there should normally be a tiny letter, a D for Denver, or sometimes nothing for Philadelphia. But in certain rare cases, the missing mint mark combined with an unusual die variety or striking error makes the coin extraordinary. These are the ones auction houses crave. Next, examine the coin for doubling on the lettering or date. Doubling can look like a faint shadow or outline, almost like the numbers or letters are slightly blurred. That doubling can turn an ordinary penny into a 6 or 7-figure fortune, and condition matters too. A coin in pristine, uncirculated condition will always command the highest value. Some worn examples might still be worth thousands, but the sharp, untouched ones? That's where the million-dollar price tags come in. One wrong glance, one overlooked detail, and you could pass up the find of a lifetime. That's why careful eyes and patience are everything, because somewhere out there, hiding in drawers, jars, and pockets, are 1994 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies worth over $1 million, and the next person to find one could be you. So the next time you hold a penny in your hand, don't dismiss it. Don't let it slip away. Look closer. Because history has shown us that miracles hide in the smallest places, that single penny could be your key to $1 million discovery. And here's the final truth you cannot forget: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a pile of forgotten change, yet it shocked the world when one example surfaced at auction and sold for a life-changing fortune. A simple 1996 D Lincoln penny, struck in Denver, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, turned out to be worth up to $1.7 million. That's the mystery we're about to unravel. And once you know the secret, you may never look at your pocket change the same way again. The year was 1996. Bill Clinton was president, the internet was beginning to change lives, and the Denver Mint was striking billions of pennies. Pennies that jingled in gas station drawers, pennies that bought gum at the corner store, pennies children tossed into wishing wells. No one could have imagined that buried among these billions was a treasure, one so rare that it could rewrite someone's future overnight. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned coin experts. One collector, sifting through what seemed like ordinary pocket change, noticed something unusual. At first, it looked like any other reddish-brown Lincoln cent. But the closer he looked, the stranger it became. The D mint mark was sharp, but something about the strike seemed off. The rim had a subtle doubling, and under magnification, Lincoln's profile revealed faint distortions, tiny hints of a rare minting error. That was the moment when a penny that should have been worth 1 cent transformed into $1 million miracle. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. The coin world couldn't believe that a 1996 penny, a date so modern, so overlooked, could command prices once thought impossible. Yet under the right conditions, in pristine grade, with the right rare error, this penny skyrocketed to an astonishing $1.7 million at auction. Not all 1996 D pennies are valuable. Only a handful contain the rare traits that separate a fortune from a forgotten coin. And spotting these tiny details could be the difference between tossing away pocket change and holding $1 million treasure. Imagine the disbelief of that collector, staring down at a penny worth more than a mansion. Imagine the rush of adrenaline, the trembling hands, the overwhelming realization that a lifetime's worth of dreams could be unlocked by a single coin. But the story doesn't end there, because once word spread, collectors everywhere began tearing through their change jars. Pawn shops, coin dealers, even banks were flooded with people desperate to find one of these elusive 1996 D rarities. It was chaos. Stories emerged of people digging through old coffee cans in their garages, of grandfathers opening dusty cigar boxes, of families dumping piggy banks on kitchen tables, each coin turned over with shaking hands, and yet, most of them missed the most critical detail. Here's why this coin is worth so much. Some 1996 D Lincoln pennies were struck with dramatic die errors, misaligned strikes, doubled dies, or even rare off-metal compositions that slipped past the mint's quality control. These errors, invisible to the untrained eye, are what transform a 1-cent coin into $1 million treasure. And when combined with immaculate condition, coins graded MS68 or higher, the value explodes to jaw-dropping levels. But what happened when the first of these sold at auction stunned the entire coin world? Seasoned dealers expected it to bring a few $1,000s. Maybe, at best, tens of thousands. But as the bids rolled in, gasps filled the room. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. The numbers climbed higher, faster, defying belief. By the time the hammer fell, the final price was nearly $1.7 million. One man's pocket change had become a miracle. Think about that for a moment. A coin that should have bought a single gumball, instead bought a mansion. A coin that most people ignored became a collector's obsession. That's the power of knowledge, of knowing what to look for, but here's where it gets even more chilling. For every one of these discovered, countless more may still be out there, hiding in plain sight. In dresser drawers. In old wallets. In jars collecting dust on a shelf. The odds are small, but the possibility is real. And that's what keeps collectors awake at night, chasing the dream that the next life-changing coin is already in their hands. Collectors say these pennies are ghost coins. You never expect to see one, yet they appear when least expected. Dealers whisper about them at conventions. Auction houses hold their breath when one crosses the block. And the frenzy they ignite is unlike anything else in modern coin collecting, because the secret to identifying a true 1996 $60 million penny lies in the details. Look for sharp, unusual doubling in the date or lettering. Examine Lincoln's profile for distortions. Check the rim for misalignments. And most importantly, condition is everything. A coin that looks flawless, with no scratches, no wear, and blazing original luster, could be the difference between pocket change and a fortune. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors are scouring every 1996 penny they can find. And the market is hotter than ever. Every day, someone discovers a coin they once overlooked. And every day, the dream of $1 million penny becomes a little more real. The 1953 DeWitt Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary, most people have let it pass through their hands without even glancing twice, yet hidden inside this humble copper piece lies one of the greatest secrets in American coinage. Why would a penny from the 1950s, worth just 1 cent, suddenly command the kind of money that could buy a mansion? The answer begins deep inside the Denver Mint, where something went terribly, or perhaps miraculously, wrong. Back in 1953, the nation was recovering from war, embracing a new era of prosperity. Millions of coins were struck in Denver to feed the growing economy, but in the midst of this massive production, a handful of pennies were minted with flaws so subtle, so invisible to the untrained eye, that nearly all escaped into circulation, hidden treasures in pockets, drawers, and piggy banks across America. At first glance, these pennies look no different than the billions of others. Abraham Lincoln stares forward, the wheat stalks frame the reverse, and the tiny D mint mark sits beneath the date, but look closer, the lettering sometimes appears doubled. The mint mark is punched unevenly. The copper alloy, in rare cases, gleams with an almost mysterious luster, and it was these details that transformed a penny into a miracle worth up to $1.8 million. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to their phones. Some couldn't believe it was real, but one fact was undeniable: this tiny coin, once rattling inside someone's pocket, had become a legend. But the story doesn't end there, because what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When a nearly flawless example was discovered decades later, the bidding wars exploded. Auction rooms filled with whispers, as if no one could believe they were staring at a coin most Americans had spent without thinking. Every eye was locked on that small copper disc. The gavel came down, and the price climbed into the stratosphere. A penny, 1 cent, sold for life-changing money. But here's the twist: most people still don't realize this coin exists right now. It could be hiding in your change jar, in an old family coin collection, or resting quietly inside a forgotten box of wheat pennies, and unless you know exactly what to look for, you might spend it without ever realizing you just held a fortune. Think about that. How many people unknowingly gave away what could have been $1 million penny? The thought alone has collectors losing sleep at night. It isn't just the date. It isn't just the mint mark. It's the story written in its metal. You see, during the striking process, errors occurred. Some coins were struck with doubled dies, where the design elements look shadowed or duplicated. Others carried repunched mint marks, with the D showing faint traces of multiple strikes, and the rarest of all were struck on planchets, the blank metal discs, that weren't meant for pennies at all. These mistakes slipped past inspectors and entered circulation, creating a coin so rare that even seasoned collectors may never hold one in their lifetime. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. One man's pocket change became a miracle when he discovered his old wheat penny collection contained a near-perfect 1953 D with doubling. That coin, authenticated and graded at the highest level, fetched hundreds of thousands, and experts estimate that the finest possible example could bring as much as $1.8 million if it ever surfaced today. Imagine that. You're digging through a jar of pennies. You see that familiar wheatback design. At first, it's just another coin, until you notice the D under the date. Collectors describe the thrill as electric, a rush of adrenaline that turns the most ordinary coin hunt into a treasure hunt worthy of kings. Many people overlook the signs. They don't check for doubling on liberty or in God we trust. They don't examine the mint mark for repunching. They don't realize that condition is everything, that the difference between a coin worth 10 cents and a coin worth $1 million often comes down to tiny scratches, luster, and sharpness of detail, and that's why so many fortunes are lost before they're ever found. But what happened next only added to the mystery. As news spread of the 1953 penny's staggering value, treasure hunters began combing through rolls of weak pennies with renewed intensity. Dealers were flooded with calls. Old collections were dragged out of attics. And still, only a handful of verified examples ever surfaced. Scarcity drove the frenzy higher. Hope turned into obsession. The hunt became personal, because finding a coin like this doesn't just mean money. It means being part of history. It means holding in your hand a piece of the American story, a reminder that even the smallest things can carry unimaginable worth. Collectors call it the miracle of copper. Ordinary people call it unbelievable luck. But those who know the truth call it opportunity, and now, it's your turn to know the secret. First, check the date. It must read 1953 with a bold D mint mark beneath. Second, look closely at the lettering. Doubling on the motto or date is a powerful sign you've found something rare. Third, examine the mint mark. If the D shows traces of being punched more than once, your penny could be a treasure. Finally, condition matters most. The fewer the scratches, the stronger the shine, the sharper the strike, the higher the value climbs. Don't make the mistake of ignoring these details, because the difference between a common wheat penny and $1 million miracle could be resting on a single faint line in the metal. So the next time you see a 1953 D penny, don't just spend it. Don't just toss it into a jar. Look closer. Look deeper. Because hidden in its copper heart may be the key to a fortune beyond your imagination. This coin almost ended up in a jar of loose change, forgotten for years, but when it finally surfaced, it sold for nearly $2 million. Imagine that, a single penny, minted in 1991, with no mint mark at all, turning an ordinary day into a life-changing discovery. At first glance, it looks like any other coin. Copper in color, Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Millions of these were struck. Billions, even. And yet, buried in this massive sea of pennies lies one mistake, one rare survivor, that collectors are willing to pay nearly $1.9 million to own. The answer is hidden in the mysteries of the U.S. Mint itself. In 1991, most pennies struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark. That wasn't unusual. But what makes this coin different isn't just its missing mark, it's the tiny, almost invisible errors born during the chaotic minting process. And here's the chilling part: most people will never notice it. They'll spend it, toss it in change, or let it vanish into the bottom of a drawer. But for the lucky few who look closely, the reward is staggering. Collectors were stunned when the first 1991 no mint mark penny with these unique traits showed up at auction. Whispers spread through the numismatic world. Dealers scrambled. Ordinary people rushed to check their coin jars. Because if one had survived, how many others could be hiding in plain sight? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The first auction was supposed to be modest. Experts weren't sure how much demand there would be. After all, 1991 doesn't seem like an old date. But as the bidding began, something unexpected happened. The price climbed higher and higher, until jaws dropped. A penny had just crossed into million-dollar territory. By the time the gavel fell, it had reached nearly $1.90 million. Think about that for a second. A coin that could have been used to buy a stick of gum instead bought a collector's dream, a financial miracle, a piece of history locked in copper. And here's the most terrifying thought of all: this coin could already be in your possession, sitting unnoticed, waiting for discovery. It comes down to details that are almost invisible to the naked eye. Certain 1991 pennies without a mint mark show a double strike, a faint duplication on Lincoln's face or the letters. Others have die cracks, tiny raised lines across the surface where the mint's machinery fractured. Some even have off-center strikes, where Lincoln's portrait drifts awkwardly, almost ghost-like, across the coin. These mistakes, usually discarded, somehow slipped into circulation, and collectors crave them. They'll pay staggering sums for them. Because each one is like a fingerprint, no two errors are exactly alike. But here's the real secret most people miss: not all 1991 no mint mark pennies are valuable. Millions are worth just 1 cent. It's the rare survivors with dramatic errors, bold doubling, sharp cracks, unusual misalignments that send collectors into a frenzy. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle when he found a 1991 no-mint mark penny with a clear double die. He couldn't believe his eyes. At first, he thought it was damaged. But after showing it to a dealer, the truth hit him like lightning. His ordinary penny was a once-in-a-lifetime treasure, but the story doesn't end there. Dealers began reporting similar coins popping up across the country. Some came from bank rolls. Some from old piggy banks. A few were rescued from dusty coin jars that had been ignored for decades. Each discovery added fuel to the fire, proving that more of these million-dollar pennies could still be hiding out there, waiting. And just when collectors thought they had seen it all, another specimen appeared, this time even more dramatic. The strike was so off-center that Lincoln's profile looked like a ghost emerging from the edge of the coin. That one, too, broke records. The frenzy has only grown stronger. Every year, more eyes turn to this date. Every year, ordinary people uncover treasures that change their lives. And every year, the legend of the 1991 no-mint mark penny grows. But here's the most important part of the story: check if the coin has no mint mark under the date. Then, examine Lincoln's face, his eye, his jawline. Do you see any doubling? Next, scan the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Doubling here is a clear sign of a valuable error. Flip it over. On the reverse, study the Lincoln Memorial. Look for doubling in the columns, or faint extra lines where they shouldn't be. Check for cracks that streak across the building like tiny lightning bolts. And finally, look at the edges. Is the strike perfectly centered, or does it drift? An off-center strike could make your coin worth a fortune. Most 1991 no-mint mark pennies are just that, ordinary. Don't mistake damage from wear, scratches, or heat for a true mint error. Collectors want authentic mistakes born at the mint, not post-circulation damage, and yet, all it takes is one coin. One error. One discovery that turns your life upside down. This is why collectors check their change obsessively. Why coin shows buzz with rumors. Why dealers fight to own the rarest specimens. Because lightning can strike at any moment, and when it does, it can turn copper into gold. So the next time you're handed a penny, don't dismiss it. Don't toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Study it. Because one of the rarest coins in U.S. history could be staring back at you, and if you find it, if you discover the legendary 1991 no-mint mark penny with the right errors, it won't just be pocket change anymore. It will be a miracle worth up to $1.9 million.